If you only have 1 minute, let me give you the summary, the TLDV, too long didn't view version of this video. There's 2 reasons I returned the Fuji X-H2. That's right, I bought it, I had it for a month, and then I returned it. 1 was the autofocus issues, and 2 was the resolution I got out of the 40 megapixel sensor was not enough for me, for what I wanted. But there's one reason that this happened and that it came to the point where I returned it, and that's because I bought the Fuji X-H2S before, and that camera is a superior camera, and I feel like I was comparing the X-H2 to the X-H2S, and so if I only bought the X-H2, I'd be happy. So that's my 1 minute summary. And then if you want to keep watching, I'll tell you about my history with Fuji, moving from Canon, selling all my Canon gear, and then I'll go through the cameras I owned, and then I'll dive in more in depth about these 2 issues. But I value your time. Stick around if you want to hear more. But ultimately, the resolution on the 40 megapixel sensor wasn't enough of a difference for me, and the autofocus issues are still problematic, and I believe Fuji's going to fix it. But those are the 2 things I want you to know straight off the top. And I was spoiled because I had the Fuji X-H2S first. It's Wes, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about my problems with the Fuji X-H2. First of all, you're a beautiful person and a good person, and if no one has told you that today, let me be the first one to tell you that. Now, it all starts with the X-H2S, and the reason it starts with the X-H2S is I bought that camera first, and I loved it. And so I had a point of comparison. When I purchased the Fuji X-H2, which I really thought was gonna be my high resolution camera, it was gonna solve all my portrait needs, all my client photography needs, I already had that point of comparison, and the X-H2S is an exceptional camera. And I know that X-H2 is like getting a lot of attention, a lot of rave reviews, but I really put stock in the X-H2S as a superior camera to the 40 megapixel. So let me tell you a little bit about how it all happened, because my story is not your story, but hearing my story might help you. So let's rewind. I haven't always been a Fuji shooter. In fact, I started with Canon, and I use Canon for all of my client gigs, my professional gigs. I actually built this channel on talking about the EOS R, and some of the videos that blew up for me and helped build the channel were 5D Mark IV versus the EOS R. But then I discovered Fuji, and I started to try out their cameras. I really, really liked what I saw. And so I rented the Fuji X-T4, and then I bought the X100V, and then I bought the Fuji X-T4, and then I sold the X100V. There's a pattern here. It's a little bit of a sickness, you'll see. And so I got the X-E4 over the X100V so that I would have a flip-up screen to make YouTube videos. I'll put a link to the video where I made that decision up here. But ultimately I sold the X-E4 because I could upgrade to the X-T4 for a few $100s, and the specs are so much better. And this is one of the lessons you should learn. Specs are not really what's important, because ultimately I didn't like the X-T4, how it felt in my hands, and I sold it again. So yes, I bought it twice, I sold it twice. I bought the X100V again. That was to go to Italy last summer. And so you can see I've been trying out these cameras. I've borrowed cameras from Fuji, the GFX 100S, the XS10, the 50R, the GFX 50R. I actually bought that and then sold that. So a lot of experimentation. Hopefully this is at my expense and for your benefit. So if you can take anything away from this, know that when I bought the X-H2, I was looking for a high resolution, and I already had the X-H2S. I've used it for client photography, for event photography. The speed of the autofocus was amazing. The resolution actually was pretty darn amazing. Like and if you're a Canon shooter and you've been watching this channel, I sold my Canon R5 once I'd used the X-H2S on a handful of gigs. And I really thought, like, I actually don't need, I like the look of Fuji, but I trusted the Canon's autofocus and performance. And once the X-H2S got in my hands for some high profile gigs and delivered, I thought I don't need the R5, so I sold that. I'll do a video on that later about the specific reasons for that. But with the X-H2S, as a comparison point to the X-H2, that's where the X-H2 didn't hold up for me. So there's 2 issues. And the 2 issues that I want to talk about are the autofocus, which I've said in other videos. You can look at other people's videos, Omar Gonzalez, Jared Z. People are having problems with the autofocus. I put out a video and I got some feedback, and it's all good. I try to learn that maybe the 56mm lens that I was using isn't the fastest, but I actually bought that lens specifically because, and it's the new version, it's not the old version, specifically because it makes use of the full sensor, or it resolves the 40 megapixel sensor fully. So I invested in that. Yes, it may not be the great lens to test on moving subjects, but like the Ferris wheel picture, which is on my blog, I'll put a link in the description to that. You can actually download, I added the full-size RAW files if you want to download them. There's other people who have seen the autofocus issues. I found that it was spotty at times when I needed it, and it wasn't extremely fast moving subjects. It should be able to pick up a person walking in a parking lot or a subject in my frame. But I found that a lot of times it picked up the background instead of the person, and that's a big problem. That's a software issue, it's the algorithm, whatever Fuji's doing. And I trust they're gonna update the firmware, and you're gonna be able to solve those problems with a firmware update. But right now it wasn't working. It wasn't working. So that's it. The autofocus was not working for me. And there's a lot of solutions to that. Don't shoot things that move, you know, use manual focus. But it's 2022, and like this is a pretty expensive camera, and so I wanted autofocus that I could trust. The X-H2S has it. And so the other issue is the resolution. I really hoped that it would have amazing resolution beyond my hopes and dreams. 40 megapixels seems so much bigger. And I've heard people on this channel have commented and they said, you have to blow up the print bigger than 24 by 36, or you have to zoom in to 100%. So if that is where you see the difference in the resolution, then I actually don't need the 40 megapixels for that, because I want to see the resolution, you know, at a smaller scale. So I'm a pretty simple guy. These are my notes and experiences with the Fuji X-H2. I owned it for a month. I shot thousands of photos with it. And I can tell you this, that when I go back and I look at those photos, I like them. They are good. They have a little something extra, although I don't say I can see it when I zoom in, but they have a little something extra that I think makes the X-H2 a good camera for photographers. However, those two issues, the caveat is the autofocus needs to get fixed, and it's really not the high resolution camera you're looking for if you think it's gonna be amazing in that regard. Where it all starts is, I had a great camera, the X-H2S, and the X-H2 couldn't compare, honestly. So that's why I sent it back, is why I have two cameras that are about equivalent and one outperforms the other. Then I don't really need this one. So let me know in the comments what you think. I feel like it's a good camera, and if I bought it first, I probably wouldn't be making this video, wouldn't be talking about sending back, but I bought it after the X-H2S, which I think is a much better camera. So thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have questions or specific information that I could provide. Again, go to the blog, the full size, the raw files over there if you want to download them and take a look. All right, peace. Oh my God. Let me check and make sure that's everything.